It's important for us to talk about this, pure democracy, because we in Brazil are not a pure democracy. We have problems. We are much better off than before. I remember that before we had an imperialist system and suddenly there was a kind of army coup there in 1889 and it became a republic. This republic was basically the slightly richer people of the time trying to hijack the state so that the state would work for them. This is what happens a lot. My great-great-grandfather, in fact, was somewhat against it. He's from the União da Vitória region, Porto União. His name is Damasio Moreira de Castilho, and things went wrong for him. He had to back down, and things worked out. He was part of the Federalists, and a republic was established there. This republic remained strong, dominant, and so on, and it only retreated in 1988 with the new constitution, which was a constitution but leaning toward democracy. So today we live in a democratic republic or a republican democracy, something like that. Pure democracy? No, we don't live in a pure democracy in Brazil. We're in this mix of republican and democratic, and that's what we have to look at today. We're going to discuss it extensively today. There's a call from FAPESC, the Santa Catarina government, a call for the defense of sovereignty and national defense, something about that. How can someone talk about and study this? It's a FAPES project called 60 Bars 2025, and I decided to do this week's live stream about it, national sovereignty, but already delving deeply into it. And we established a pure democracy to re-establish national sovereignty. Today we don't have much national sovereignty. Look, big tech controls much of the information that circulates in the state on the continent. Within the armies, within army schools, there's talk that the army is something like the great protector of democracy, and it isn't. All of this is part of important biases that destroy democracy. At some point, another coup and another coup and another coup and another coup, always a coup. And the population thinks the armed forces are the greatest asset, the guardian, but they are not. So, have you noticed we are here in a pure democracy? But the armed forces and any individual within the country, within Brazil, each individual, if he can rescue himself, pure democracy, the country improves. Of the individual, regardless of position, regardless of party, regardless of religiosity, if they enter a pure democracy, national sovereignty is better preserved because the person is democratic. They enter the process of pure democracy. Pure democracy is something that depends on you feeling yourself inside and perceiving the conscience of others. Pure democracy isn't about using your conscience and imposing it as the dominant, prettiest conscience. No, it's about feeling yourself. You feel. When you feel within an environment. You feel as far as you perceive. What you're perceiving in sound, environment, and colors is you. It's your perception. This is feeling. This is body territory. This is feeling. And in this feeling, there are some people in this room. And then I'll perceive the consciousness of the other who is different from me in religion, in politics, styles, size, sexuality is different from us. So then you perceive the other's consciousness, and it's a pure democracy and respect. Pure democracy comes from you looking at the other and knowing that it's good for the other, good for you, good for all of us, pure democracy, and good for other DNA that involves plants and animals and other living beings, okay? Many people are very confused about democracy and republic. This is how the republic works. You have norms and rules in a republic. This is how the republic works. Men are evil. We place these norms and rules below men and women and children because men are evil by nature. And that's a lie. Who creates these norms and rules? The rich, the richest. The richest in the world create the norms and rules, and they take these rules and impose them on the population. This is a republic. A republic is imposing norms and rules on the population, and to put it another way, man is evil by nature. If we don't impose norms and rules, there will be social chaos. In fact, these norms and rules are created by the elite, the richest 1% in Brazil, in the United States, in any country. They go and establish the norms and rules and impose them. Or the party, if it's a more closed country, that party is the party of perfection. And the norms and rules have to be imposed on the population. Then it's not democracy, it doesn't come from the population. Democracy arises from the well-being of the individual, from the interaction of the individual with the environment, from this symbiosis, this metabolism between human body and other DNA and other living beings. Therein lies democracy. Democracy is our own good being resolved by ourselves. The American Constitution began a little with this. It began by extensively researching the lines of the Iroquois nations. And in the Iroquois nations, there was this democracy, this strength that comes from the people, a democracy that with everyone coming together, what are we going to do? It's a problem. So we come together to solve problems. Democracy. But at the beginning of democracy, a republican process began, and then the state came to create norms and rules and imposes norms and rules. But it's not the state that creates norms and rules, it's representatives, senators, paid by whom? By the richest who put them in Congress. So the problem of national sovereignty involves putting our hands on our conscience and questioning what democracy is. We live with norms and rules imposed from above and below. And we've evolved a lot since the 1988 Constitution, a lot, and we're going to seek that democracy. And suddenly we have pure democracy to combat what? To help defend national sovereignty, but pure democracy. And pure democracy requires that the individual be free to think, to decide. And today, that's not quite how it works. Of a state, a country's sovereignty is a synchrony between brains. This is the sign of sovereignty in Brazil, and in many parts of the world there is a desynchrony caused by social media. When I talk about social media, people say, oh, but do you think Instagram is the only feed? Social media is because social media starts to work with you with two very strong elements, dopamine and cortisol, adrenaline too, but mainly dopamine. Dopamine is something you receive. Dopamine is something pleasant, something good. Future projection, something improved, but dopamine only projects things into the future. It only considers that what you believe is true, it gives you. The social network with its algorithm will give you what you believe. And when it gives you what you believe, it gives your brain a dopamine rush. By pumping dopamine into your brain, you feel happy. Dopamine promises the future, promises a better life, but it doesn't give you a sense of belonging. Dopamine makes you isolate yourself. Have you ever seen a teenager, your son, your daughter, your cousin, a classmate, come with dopamine? I'm going to such and such a place. They become so addicted to dopamine, so interested in going to that party, to that birthday, that if it's not from anxiety, it creates a kind of FOMO, the loss of not going, because they're so addicted to dopamine that they need to project themselves into the future. Dopamine is a projection of the future. The stock market is like that. The stock market bets and goes there. And then the person who bets gets that dopamine rush of projecting into the future that they'll win in the future. And that dopamine is so intense but disconnected from reality because it's only about profit. So it goes out, we're talking about national sovereignty. It goes out, but the financial market gains a lot of money, and especially derivatives. It starts to move a much larger amount of money than all the real work of the entire planet. Then it becomes a dopamine disconnected from reality. This undermines national sovereignty because it's so much, so much, so much money. So we have to take this financial market and this dopamine that projects into the future and generates money from the financial market and try to isolate this money from the financial market, from the money that is more of a metabolic economy of buying and selling things, of paying you for a service, receiving, paying rent. You understand the market. So this is a different economy from the financial market, which is addicted to dopamine. The financial market is almost in an epileptic fit. Stays in that thing and leaves without any notion of reality. That's one thing. And if we can decouple the financial market, this speculator who speculates so much, then we can restore this synchronization of the brains of the entire population. And we begin to restore the ability to feel the real, not the speculated. Understand? Because when you feel the speculated, the projection of tomorrow, it's something that gives you a dopamine rush. And you end up thinking that tomorrow is what was narrated for you by Facebook, WhatsApp, somewhere, or on television as well. But this narration has taken away your sense of belonging. What does it mean to take away belonging? Sometimes it's such a complicated thing. Every time you have us versus them, you lose your sense of belonging. Every time you think your political party is superior to another, you've lost your sense of belonging. If you think your religion is smarter and more important than another's, you've lost your sense of belonging. The loss of belonging is believing yourself superior. When you believe yourself superior because of ideology, because of something, you've lost your sense of belonging. Belonging is being together. We're together. So the loss of temper has a lot to do with this inability to change beliefs. And that's where something very important comes into play. For national sovereignty, our educational system must engage the brain. Education means teaching the brain to change beliefs and perceive reality as a living, shared experience. Educating is teaching the brain to change beliefs. I use it a lot. 6 avatars. People say, since you use an avatar, why do you use an avatar? So I can change my reference, so I can change my mind. Sometimes information comes, and how am I supposed to change my beliefs? That information comes, and the information, when it comes, you synchronize it within yourself, and your beliefs determine how you will perceive it. So we get stuck in a way of seeing the world. Dreams, thoughts, and perceptions always reinforce the same narrative you believe. So you have to change your beliefs to see things differently. And this should be a lesson. In schools, teaching is really about the brain changing beliefs and perceiving reality as a living shared experience. That's interesting. When you have a living shared experience, you experience it together with other people. Each person who experienced it, who had that experience, each of these people has a different perspective, a different narrative about the same experience. This is democracy. The same event with 5, 6 ways to explain it. That's democracy. But a real event. Today, what we see on social media are fake events, and this falseness of events creates a dopamine rush in us, believing it's what we want, but it's not true. And then you're held hostage. Not just you, but much of the country is held hostage by disinformation. So disinformation is a very serious problem, and we have to break out of this process, this hybrid war of exchanging disinformation. We have to regulate social media. It has to be regulated. Some people lie thinking they're telling the truth, but there's a business where you lie, lie, lie to polarize people knowing you're lying. This is what regulation is all about. It's people who lie for business. Their business is lying to polarize politics, to polarize religions. So from the moment this kind of business occurs, we have to regulate. Hold on, you're spending millions to spread lies. This compromises national sovereignty. And then you have a very serious problem because this misinformation, when I put it out there, is emotionally charged misinformation. It's misinformation with a lot of emotion. It's really cool. You go and look at that information and you want to see it again. I don't know, on Twitter, on Instagram, you want to see it again because it's really cool, but it's false. But it's really cool because it's very emotional. And national sovereignty is compromised by this. National sovereignty has to be careful with this kind of thing. The other strong point we have is that life has to have a value, not in the promises of tomorrow. This is such a complicated topic, and I've spoken to you about it a few times. There are people I was like that, and I have friends and relatives who are like that. They are people who always value life. It's never here, it's always there, always tomorrow, always the promise of the future, always the dopamine rush of getting better. But you're already there. You can already enjoy a better life. No, you can't, because it's forward. It's dopamine. It's a dopamine addiction. Dopamine is a hormone you secrete in your brain when you're predicting the future. You understand? If something comes along that matches your prediction of the future, you're happy. You reward yourself on top of it. Look how smart I am. I knew it was like that. I knew this was bad, that this is evil, because that information matches what you believe. So it's dopamine. You get dopamine. You get a little gift. But it's an endogenous hormone that goes into your brain and gives you a reward. And there are people who are always projecting the best there. They're never happy where they are. They're always uncomfortable, anxious. They're missing something in life. Life is passing by, and you have to go that way to enjoy life, not here. And that's funny because here should be enjoyed. And if you keep jumping from a lot of there, here doesn't make the most of it. Your life wears you out and you don't have the now. You lose the now. You wear yourself out in life searching. And when you go there, you arrive at that square, at that event, in that city, in that country, you arrive and you want to go to the other one, or you arrive and want, wow, my mother could be there, my father, my uncle, my cousin, or my wife, or my son, they had to be there, because you don't want to feel the now. You just want to feel the dopamine rush. You're addicted to dopamine. In our financial market, for example, you take a lot of people from the financial market, you'll see a tremendous addiction to the dopamine rush of predicting the future, predicting the dollar, predicting stocks, predicting derivatives, and this dopamine is highly contagious and causes a lot of stress. Burnout, which is a serious illness, will affect these people quite a bit, and it will leave them feeling neurotic. And national sovereignty requires everyone to be healthy. Everyone, whether in the financial market or not, or in the armed forces. And that's what we're talking about. So there are some plans I like to put forward, and I've already mentioned them, and I'll mention them again. There is one thing that has made significant progress, which is the Citizen Drek. And there's something I haven't mentioned much to you, but I'll mention it again: carbon credits. The Citizen Drek we propose is money born within the individual, real money, real digital money being created within the individual. And this carbon credit is: the air is good, the water is good, the hygiene and well-being of the population is good. So You can, within this population, add more carbon credits, release money to those who care for the forest, the preservation of a good forest, to those who do something that is very important for the preservation of forests, rivers, clean water, and clean air. So you release carbon credits, and along with that, you make the citizen Drex monetize a little higher in that region. What will happen to the people in that region? They tend to benefit more by making that region better, more organic, cleaner, more ecological. And then there's the citizen direct investment coming in. Not today, not today. Today, the person isn't earning anything, chasing money. They have no financial security, no financial security. Someone even lower than 0 1, the rich ones, comes along and tells them, look, I'll pay you this much to go there and burn that forest. Then you go there, burn that forest, suddenly you're arrested. One of your relatives is arrested, that forest is burned, then it's sold to someone else, then to someone else, then to someone else. Then it ends up in the hands of the rich guy later, right? And he has nothing to do with it, nothing to do with it. But he asked for this forest to be burned for someone, you know? It's more or less the same thing that happens with companies with CNPJ, National Registry of Legal Entities, and persistent debtors. They set up a company, fail and create another, fail again, create another, fail again, create another. But with bankruptcy, they're laundering a lot of money. They're laundering a lot of money. And this money is fake money. Fake, it comes out of nowhere, it's shocking, and national sovereignty is compromised because these are extremely wealthy people who easily put representatives and senators in Congress, and national sovereignty is like, whoa, what's that? That's why this public call in Santa Catarina, how can we improve national sovereignty? And my proposal, citizen drag. The individual must have financial comfort, financial security. When you have financial security, you move to zone 2. Jackson, what is zone 2? Let's explain again. Zone 2 is when you're dreaming. In your dream, you have zone 2, you're dreaming, your breathing slows down a bit, your saturation is between 92 and 93. 2, that's really cool. Zone 1 is when you put pressure, tension on your body to do something. And zone 3 is when that tension comes from your company or someone who pressured you to do something. So zone 3 is external pressure. Zone 1 is the pressure I put on my own body. And zone 2 is stability. You're feeling your body and you're flowing, and it's a flow that allows you to do things. They can be walking, they can be running, they can perform even in a game, but in zone 2, studying and so on. So it's very important that we place the citizen in zone 2. Financial insecurity takes them out of zone 2. The individual outside of zone 2 can't create very well, can't think very well. So the civic aspect is compromised because the individual lacks financial security. And if we take Brazil, and without financial security, you can say that more than half the population suffers from financial insecurity. With financial insecurity, you don't have national sovereignty. You don't. So financial security, the bare minimum, is guaranteed by the state. The minimum for the citizen to survive. Citizen, not citizen of the Republic, because the Republic dates back to the Greeks and Romans way back in time from Greece. The citizen is a rich man, a wealthy white man, not a woman, not a slave, not a son, not a daughter, not an immigrant. The Republic comes with this bias of what a citizen is. Who is a good man? A good man is a citizen, the rest are not. This is a Republican bias, and the richest want to impose this bias from the top down. And we are saying that national sovereignty is with pure democracy. That bias is out of the question. A citizen is a citizen. They're born in Brazil, they're a citizen, and that's it, period. They're not the richest, they're not the poorest, that's not it. They're not black, they're not white, they're not Chinese, they're not Japanese. They were born in Brazil, they're a Brazilian citizen, period. That's it. So there's no bias toward good people. The crimes we're seeing in Brazil with methanol and everything, if you look at people's faces, they're all good people. They're all good people who are the biggest criminals. Of course, they usually don't even end up in jail. They just go back, okay? Because we have this cognitive bias and this national sovereignty is under attack from social networks. When I talk about social media, some people say that, but Jacobs, is social media directly attacking the supranational nature of democracy? No, social media wants to make money. If someone has a lot of money, if they put $1 billion into social media, it significantly polarizes the population of a certain region. It directs the cognitive bias, the consciousness of these people toward this area, because in that region, a lot of money is thrown, a billion, a large region, and it throws all the information and all the lies in a special way so that that person no longer accepts this idea and accepts that other idea. That's it, manipulated, controlled the consciousness of individuals in a certain population, and national sovereignty was compromised. I also said I'll send you links to several options. A government, state-run artificial intelligence. If you notice in national sovereignty, what happens is the following: the richest, the planet 01, the richest 1%, they attack the state and only live off the state. They attack the state and the state has to tax less, but they don't want to pay taxes and only live off the state. The richest only live off the state, but they attack the state. This is important for us to know. This attack on the state is a loss of national sovereignty because we are the state. How can I attack the state? The state isn't being responsible because it's abandoning the majority of Brazilians for the sake of 0.1% of the population, the wealthiest. So it's not being responsible. The small changes now in taxes and not imposing taxes up to R$5000 are fantastic. That's the path we're taking. But even without imposing taxes, you see, there's a sense of financial insecurity among the population. What's more, you go to prisons, there's a population, our brothers and sisters are there. How can I improve the lives of these people? How will they come to society to be of social benefit? But if they come to society, their financial insecurity is greater because they won't even have a job. So the minimum basic financial security is like a Bolsa Familia for everyone daily. But it's not Bolsa Familia, it's a national income given to each citizen daily. So financial insecurity is over. These people will start to have ideas and create better. Suddenly one is a lost cause, but who is being born now? Those who are being born now are people who can have a much better life. But no, the Republican system says let's establish the rules and put pressure on this individual to be good, and pressure, and the individual gets dusted because it's not pure democracy. It's a Republican system, backward, retrograde. We are there in this system. We have to improve this process. We have to pure democracy, establish it up here where first in you, first in me. Pure democracy is about perceiving the environment. It's about wanting the good of the environment and the people in it. Pure democracy isn't about living in Paris or France or live there in another city, in Amsterdam, wherever, and talk about Brazilian affairs and control Brazil. Pure democracy is you being there, living, feeling, perceiving, being. And wanting the best for those around you, real, alive. There's no point in being abroad and saying I'm Brazilian and just sucking, extracting in Brazil, destroying the system. And that's what we have to see. What is a Brazilian citizen? A Brazilian citizen is here, he's on our land, he sits, he's there, he understands what's around him. And this is the path to our sovereignty. Involve, provide security to Brazilians, financial security to Brazilians, provide conditions, provide education, help the process so that the wealth process happens. so that we as a state can use retail CBDC and not borrow money from abroad or borrow money at 15% interest per year from the state itself. No, change these rules and let's make the value of life emerge directly, reconnect with life, with feeling, and not with the dopamine rush of predicting the future. You'll see the future on the internet, you'll see it in the financial market, you'll see it through drugs, also that dopamine rush, that's addiction. Let's get into real life, let's see the here, let's see the now, let's see the sovereignty, let's see this pure democracy in you. And me, of course, everyone, a big hug to you. That's what I wanted to leave with you this Wednesday. Until next time.